What happens when a CEO hides in plain sight and hears one of his managers call paying customers trash? Nathaniel Pierce had never set foot in store 12. It wasn't personal. His father had opened the first store 32 years ago, and by the time Nathaniel inherited the company 6 years ago, there were already a dozen locations across 3 states. Store 12 was in a small town in Ohio, opened during a fast expansion phase. Nathaniel had approved the lease, signed off on the budget, and hired the district manager. But he'd never met the staff there, not once. Now, he regretted that. Sales in Store 12 had been dipping for the past 2 quarters. Customer reviews were terrible. Rude staff, dirty fitting rooms, no help on the floor. Nathaniel had asked for answers. His district manager, a guy named Corey, blamed the town. "It's just the area," Corey had said. "Low-income customers, high turnover, hard to find good people." Nathaniel didn't buy it. He'd heard that excuse before, and he was tired of hearing reports filtered through layers of managers. So he made a choice. He trimmed the beard, dyed his hair. Got a pair of thick glasses and a retail name tag that said Nick. He looked nothing like the man on the website or the company manuals. With 12 stores and over 200 employees, nobody at Store 12 had ever met him. He walked into the store on a Monday morning, posing as a new trainee. The place felt off the second he stepped in. The lights buzzed. One of the mannequins in the front display was missing an arm. A customer was standing at the register, looking annoyed, while the cashier scrolled on her phone. Behind the counter stood a woman in her 30s, tall, with sharp eyes and a tight ponytail. "You the new guy?" she asked. "Yeah, Nick," Nathaniel said. "I'm Morgan. I manage this location. You're with me today." She handed him a wrinkled polo and told him to change in the back. No welcome, no explanation, no tour. The break room was cluttered. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the table next to a dirty microwave. Nathaniel changed quickly and joined Morgan on the floor. "You fold shirts, you hang pants, you don't talk too much," she said. "If a customer asks you something, send them to me or Ronnie. Got it?" He nodded. "Good. Let's see if you can last longer than the last guy." By noon, he'd seen enough to know this wasn't just bad management, it was something worse. Morgan barked at employees in front of customers. She rolled her eyes when people asked for help. At one point, a teenage girl came in looking for a prom dress on sale. When she walked away, Morgan muttered, "These people really think we're a thrift store. Trash." Nathaniel froze. "What did you say?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Morgan didn't even blink. "You'll see. This town's full of them. They don't buy, they mess up the fitting rooms, and they smell like cigarettes. Trash." Nathaniel felt his jaw clench. That girl had looked nervous, excited. She had asked politely. She hadn't done anything wrong. He stayed silent, not yet. Instead, he followed Morgan around as she ignored a crying toddler, told another customer, "If it's not on the rack, we don't have it," and gave her cashier a hard time for taking too long on break. By the afternoon, he met Ronnie, the assistant manager. Ronnie was quiet, in his early 20s, and looked exhausted. "You okay?" Nathaniel asked. Ronnie nodded but didn't say much. Later, when Morgan went to the back, Ronnie leaned in. "You knew?" "Yeah. Just watch yourself." Morgan doesn't like people asking questions. Nathaniel noticed something else, too. A girl named Ruby. She was maybe 19, working the floor like a pro. She helped an old woman find shoes, knelt to pick up spilled socks without being asked, and even offered to carry bags for a mom with 2 kids. Customers smiled at her. She smiled back. She was everything right in a store run wrong. Morgan didn't even acknowledge her. At closing, Nathaniel was sweeping near the front when he heard Morgan again, this time talking about Ruby to Ronnie. "She's too nice. Customers think they can walk all over her. I'm not here to babysit." That night, Nathaniel sat in his car in the parking lot, staring at the storefront. He felt sick. The store wasn't failing because of the town or the customers. It was failing because Morgan treated people like problems, and she had no idea who he really was. Tomorrow he'd come back, not to fold shirts, to watch, to listen, to decide. Nathaniel arrived early the next morning, before the metal gate had even been lifted. The parking lot was still empty except for a lone car parked under a flickering lamp. Through the windshield, he saw Ruby sitting behind the wheel with her head tilted back, eyes closed. It was barely 6:45. She startled when he tapped on the window. "Hey, sorry," he said quietly. "Didn't mean to scare you." Ruby blinked a few times before lowering the window. "It's okay. I had a morning shift at the diner, just trying not to fall asleep standing up when we open." Nathaniel stepped back. "You work 2 jobs?" "Yeah. My mom's not doing great right now, so I'm covering rent. It's just temporary." It wasn't his place to say anything, not yet. But he nodded once, and they walked into the store together when Morgan arrived at 7 on the dot, keys jingling on her belt loop. She didn't say a word to either of them. Inside, the air was stale. The cleaning schedule posted near the break room hadn't been updated in 5 days. A box of unopened merchandise sat by the stockroom door, partially crushed, with a neon green sticky note stuck to the side that read, "Someone deal with this." Morgan tossed her purse on the counter and started barking orders before unlocking the front doors. "Ruby, refold the clearance tables. They look like a toddler tore through them. Nick, go clean that back corner. Someone spilled lotion or something yesterday." Nathaniel made his way to the back and crouched by the cosmetics section. The spill had dried into a sticky film. No one had even tried to clean it. He grabbed paper towels from the register and scrubbed it silently, watching customers trickle in as the doors opened. Ronnie arrived shortly after opening, wearing the same creased shirt from the day before. His eyes were bloodshot. Morgan pulled him aside near the fitting rooms. "You didn't do the payroll sheets last night," she snapped under her breath. "Now, I've got to do it on top of everything else." "I was helping with a return that took a while," Ronnie said, his voice low. "Excuses again," she hissed. "You're lucky I even let you have this job after last month." Nathaniel wasn't the only one who noticed. A customer near the shoes section glanced over, eyebrows raised. Ronnie turned away without responding, heading to the back with slumped shoulders. By late morning, the store was full. A school nearby had an early release day, and a group of teenagers came in laughing, trying on sunglasses and jackets. One of them, a boy with Down syndrome, was clearly excited, holding up a pair of neon sneakers to his friend. Nathaniel watched as Morgan approached them with a look of pure irritation. "Are you kids buying anything? Or is this just recess for you?" she said, arms crossed. The boy's friend stepped forward politely. "We're just looking." "Well, you've been looking for 20 minutes and haven't bought a thing. Either grab what you need or move along. This isn't a daycare." The boy's face fell. His friend put the shoes down slowly and muttered, "We'll go," before guiding him out. Nathaniel felt heat rise in his chest. He followed them out the door without thinking. "Hey," he called gently. The boy turned. His name tag read Jace, probably from school. Nathaniel crouched slightly to meet his eye. "I just wanted to say I'm really sorry for how that was handled. You're welcome here anytime." Jace's friend looked wary. "It's fine. We're used to it." "That doesn't make it right." He watched them cross the parking lot, then turned back toward the store, jaw tight. Inside, Ruby was helping a woman with mobility issues, walking slowly beside her with a cart. She whispered something, and the woman smiled in response. Morgan stormed past them, muttering, "If these people need full-time caregivers, they should shop online." Nathaniel's fist clenched. He couldn't stay silent much longer. In the afternoon, a delivery truck arrived. Boxes were stacked high, blocking the emergency exit. The driver, a burly man in his 50s, asked where the manager was. Morgan was on her phone, pacing behind the counter. Nathaniel approached. "Hey, the delivery." She waved him off. "Put it in the stockroom." "There's too much. It's blocking the fire exit." "Then unbox it. You've got hands. Figure it out." He turned to Ronnie, who was pulling security tags off sweaters. "Do we have a dolly or cart?" Ronnie shook his head. "We had one. The wheel broke last month. Still haven't gotten a new one." Nathaniel pulled the boxes in by hand. It took 40 minutes. By the time he finished, his arms burned and sweat soaked through his shirt. Back on the floor, he saw Morgan lean over the register where Ruby was ringing up a customer. "Stop chatting. You're not here to make friends." Ruby didn't answer. She just handed the customer her change and offered a quiet, "Thank you." At 4, a man in a wheelchair entered with his teenage daughter. She was tall, with deep brown skin and tight braids, wearing a school basketball hoodie. Her father wheeled steadily beside her as she headed straight for the athletics section. Morgan was folding shirts nearby. The girl asked, "Do you have any more of these in a size large?" Morgan didn't even look up. "Everything's out. Try squeezing into a medium." The girl blinked. "I'm not trying to squeeze into anything. I just need a large." Morgan stood, arms crossed. "Then maybe this isn't the store for you." The father wheeled up behind her, face impassive. "Excuse me?" Morgan gave a tight shrug. "We cater to a certain range. If that doesn't work, I suggest you try the outlet mall." Nathaniel stepped in without thinking. "Morgan, in the back, now." She narrowed her eyes. "Who do you think you are telling me, now?" She hesitated, then dropped the shirt and followed him toward the stockroom. Once the door closed behind them, Nathaniel pulled off his glasses and looked her dead in the eye. "I'm Nathaniel Pierce. I own this company." Her face froze. "You've got 30 seconds to explain yourself." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hands twitched at her sides. "I run a tight ship. Some people don't. No, you don't run anything anymore. You're done. You're making a mistake. No, the mistake was letting someone like you represent this company for this long." He stepped out, heart hammering. He found Ruby near the counter. "Can you gather the team? Please, everyone who's here." She looked uncertain, but nodded. In 5 minutes, the staff stood near the back register. Ruby, Ronnie, the cashier, and a stock boy named Joel he hadn't met yet. Morgan was gone, her keys left on the counter. Nathaniel faced them. "I'm not Nick. My name is Nathaniel Pierce. I'm the CEO." They stood silent. "I came because something about this store didn't feel right. And now I know why." Ronnie looked down. Ruby's eyes widened. "Morgan is no longer with the company. Starting now, this store will operate with respect for staff, for customers, for each other." He looked at Ronnie. "How many hours are you scheduled this week?" 52. "Not anymore. Effective immediately, you're cut to 40, with your full hourly rate preserved. We'll bring in someone from another location temporarily while we hire a proper manager." He turned to Ruby. "You're the reason I didn't lose hope watching this place. You treat people like they matter. Starting next week, you're getting a bump in pay and taking over as lead associate. You'll help with scheduling and training if you're willing." She looked stunned. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just keep doing what you're doing." It wasn't a fix-all. The store would need time, but for the first time in a long while, Nathaniel felt like a leader again. He'd come looking for answers. He found his company's soul. The next morning, Nathaniel returned to store 12 this time through the front doors, without a disguise, wearing a plain blue button-down and no name tag. He didn't say a word as he entered. He just walked to the back, past the quiet stares of the cashier and stock boy, and into the office Morgan had once claimed as her own. It was worse than he remembered. Papers were stuffed into drawers at random, employee files half completed. Spilled coffee dried into the desk surface. A broken stapler sat jammed between stacks of old invoices. There wasn't a single policy manual in sight. He didn't bother sitting. He stood by the desk, pulled out his phone, and called Tanya from HR. "I need a hiring team here today," he said. "This store's been operating without oversight for too long. We'll need fresh applications pulled from surrounding towns, and I want all existing employee records reviewed start to finish." By noon, Tanya had 2 people from HR on site, reviewing files at a folding table in the break room. Nathaniel didn't interfere. He spent the afternoon on the floor. Ronnie was working the register, quieter than usual, double-checking bills under the scanner light. "You doing okay?" Nathaniel asked. Ronnie nodded once. I didn't think she'd ever actually be gone." Nathaniel leaned against the counter. "You were here every day. You saw what she was doing. Why didn't you report it?" Ronnie looked down at the register drawer. "She told me corporate wouldn't care, that they'd just back her up. She said it's how the company works, get people in, get them out, keep margins tight." Nathaniel paused. "What do you think now?" Ronnie met his eyes. "I think I should have said something a long time ago." Nathaniel didn't respond. He let the silence speak. In the afternoon, a woman in a green utility jacket came in, holding a return bag. Ruby spotted her and approached with a soft tone. "Welcome back. Is there something I can help with?" The woman hesitated. "I bought a coat last week. It's got a rip in the seam." Ruby walked her over to the counter and helped inspect the coat. Nathaniel watched as she didn't just process the return, she offered to walk the woman to the outerwear section and help her pick a replacement. When they returned 10 minutes later, the woman smiled, a new coat folded neatly over her arm. Nathaniel waited until Ruby was done before speaking. "How often do you get returns like that?" She glanced toward the back. "A few times a week. Some of the inventory comes in already damaged, or the customer doesn't notice until they get home." "Why hasn't it been logged?" Ruby hesitated. "Morgan said logging returns was a waste of time. She told us to toss defectives in the bin and move on." Nathaniel felt a headache forming. "Do you remember who handled damages before her?" "There was a guy named Terry. I didn't work here yet, but people said he used to send photos to inventory control, logged everything. He left a few months before I started." Nathaniel made a mental note. He'd have Tanya pull Terry's file and see where he ended up. By the end of the day, the HR team had flagged several issues. Staff files were missing emergency contacts. One associate had been listed as part-time, but routinely clocked over 45 hours. Another had never signed a training acknowledgement. Nathaniel reviewed the list quietly, then asked Tanya to bring in a temporary field manager from Store 8, someone he trusted named Lillian, who had run a tight ship for over a decade. She arrived the next morning. Lillian stepped into the store without ceremony. She wore a maroon cardigan, black slacks, and a steel expression that said she didn't tolerate chaos. Ruby greeted her and offered to show her the system. "I'd rather you show me what's broken," Lillian said. They walked together through the aisles. Nathaniel trailed behind, listening. Ruby pointed to a section near the children's wear. "We don't have enough size tags. Customers just guess and end up leaving piles." Lillian nodded. "And who's in charge of restocking supplies?" "No one, really. Morgan would just tell us to make it work." By mid-afternoon, Lillian had a running list of over 20 systemic failures, from missing inventory logs to expired promotional signage. Nathaniel watched as she jotted each item in a small spiral-bound notebook. "You think we can turn it around?" he asked when they reached the back office. Lillian didn't hesitate. "If we clean house and get the right people in, yes, but this place has been neglected too long. It's not just about replacing a manager. It's about rebuilding trust." That evening, as the store closed, Nathaniel called a staff meeting. They gathered near the shoe section. A quiet tension hung in the air. "I know the last few days have been a lot," he said, "and I know some of you are still wondering what comes next." He turned to Joel, the stock boy. "You've been working here how long?" 7 months, Joel said. "Have you ever had a performance review?" Joel shook his head. "Has anyone ever asked you what you want to do long term?" Another shake. Nathaniel scanned the room. "That ends now. Everyone here deserves to be seen, not just supervised." He looked at a cashier named Tasha. "You were scheduled for a double shift last week when your son had a doctor's appointment. You asked to swap, and your hours got cut the next week instead. That's not just bad management, it's retaliation. That won't happen again." Tasha's eyes widened, but she said nothing. Nathaniel continued. "We're going to rebuild this store. That means training. That means scheduling fairness. And it means if someone disrespects you, they're gone. No warnings, no debates." He paused. "And that includes me. If I ever stop listening, tell me. This company doesn't work unless we all do." The room was silent, but not the kind of silence he feared. It was the quiet of people recalibrating, trying to believe that maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. After the meeting, Ruby lingered. "I don't know how to lead a team," she said quietly. "I've never done it before." "You don't need to know everything," Nathaniel replied. "Just keep doing what you've been doing. Treat people right, ask questions, let Lillian guide you." Ruby nodded slowly. "I'll try. That's all I'm asking." The next morning, Nathaniel didn't show up in a disguise or with a clipboard. He simply walked in, nodded to the staff, and headed straight to the office. He had a call scheduled with the head of training to discuss revamping onboarding procedures across all locations. Store 12 wasn't the only one that had slipped through the cracks, but it was the one that woke him up. As he sat at the desk, he thought about Jace, the boy who'd left without the neon shoes, about the girl whose size hadn't been in stock, about the father who'd wheeled his chair out of the store in silence. He thought about Ruby, showing up before sunrise. And he knew one thing for certain. This company would never again allow silence to be mistaken for structure or cruelty for leadership, not while he was in charge. 3 weeks later, Store 12 looked the same from the outside. Same weather-worn sign, same rust-stained awning above the entrance. But inside, it was a different company. Not perfect, Nathaniel would never call it that, but different in all the ways that mattered. Lillian had taken charge from day one, not with noise, but with structure. She installed a physical communication board in the break room, updated daily. Shift notes, maintenance issues, customer feedback all posted in plain sight. No one could claim they didn't know what was happening anymore. Ruby had grown into her new role faster than Nathaniel expected. She didn't try to act like a boss. She asked questions, double-checked inventory counts, and quietly helped newer hires find their footing. She still folded sweaters and answered phones, but now she also coordinated the front-end schedule and tracked sales by department. Nathaniel returned every few days, not in disguise, not unannounced, but as a presence. Not to inspect, but to listen. On a Thursday morning, he sat in the stockroom with Lillian and Tanya, reviewing applicant files for the permanent store manager role. "We've got 3 finalists," Tanya said, sliding a folder across the table. 1 internal, 2 external. All have strong retail backgrounds, no red flags. Lillian tapped the internal candidate's file. "I'd consider Ruby." "She's already overloaded," Nathaniel said. "If we give her the manager title, we'd be setting her up to fail. She's too new to the company structure, and we don't have enough support staff yet. Let her solidify as a lead first. She's earning trust fast, but let's not bury her under logistics." Lillian nodded. "Fair." They reviewed the external finalists, narrowing the list to 2. One would interview in person next week. Outside the stockroom, Ronnie was counting registers with Tasha. He still looked tired, but the tightness in his face had softened. His hours had been adjusted. And Lillian had started training him on supply tracking, something he requested after years of being stuck behind the register. "I didn't even know we could request that," he had said during a shift meeting. "I thought the schedule just came down and we dealt with it." Now, employees submitted weekly availability forms. Preferences weren't always met, but they were considered, and when they weren't, Lillian explained why. One afternoon, Nathaniel stood near the front, surveying the floor. A woman in a wheelchair came in with her 2 sons. They browsed quietly. No one rushed them. Ruby passed by and offered to help carry their items to the register. The older son said no thanks, but smiled. That moment stuck with him. He remembered Jace, the boy who left without the sneakers. He hadn't been back. Nathaniel had thought about him more than he cared to admit. Later that evening, he made a quiet call to the school listed on the boy's name tag. "I'm not trying to push anything," he told the receptionist. "I just want to offer to replace the sneakers he wanted, if he'd like that." The receptionist hesitated, then said she'd pass along the message. A week later, Jace walked in with his older sister. He spotted Ruby first and waved. She waved back without missing a beat, then walked them to the athletics section. Nathaniel stayed back, watching. Ruby crouched beside Jace as he held up a pair of bright blue sneakers. "These the ones?" she asked. Jace nodded so hard his glasses slipped. She brought them to the register herself. Nathaniel didn't interrupt. He waited until they left, then approached Ruby. "That was the same kid, wasn't it?" She smiled. "Yeah, you remember him." "I remember what he walked out without." "Well," she said, "he's got him now." He looked around. The store was still rough around the edges. There were still boxes in the back that needed sorting, still a display stand with a cracked corner. But it felt right now. It felt like it belonged to the people working in it. Later that week, the new store manager arrived. Her name was Cecily. She had 15 years of experience, most recently managing a department store in Pittsburgh. During her second interview, she had asked only one question. "What's the standard for how your customers should feel when they leave?" Nathaniel had smiled. "Like they matter." She accepted the role the next day. Cecily didn't arrive with fanfare. She walked in, met the team, and spent her first full day shadowing Ruby and taking notes. That evening, she sat across from Nathaniel in the break room. "I'll need time," she said. "The place has potential, but there's still a lot of cleanup." "I know," he said, "but the bones are good. The people are willing. That's what matters. He looked at her. If you ever see this place sliding again, if someone starts treating people like they don't belong, you call me. Direct. No chain of command. I will. After Cecily took over, Lillian transitioned back to her home store. Before she left, she met with Ruby in the back room. You've got a future in this. If you want it, she said. I'm not sure I'm cut out for management, Ruby said. That's what all the good ones say. Ronnie moved into a hybrid role, handling back office tasks part-time while still covering floor shifts. Cecily told him she expected him to own the supply chain process within 60 days. He said he'd give it everything he had. On Nathaniel's last visit before pulling back, he arrived with no warning, no speech prepared. He simply walked the aisles, pausing now and then to ask how things were going. He found Joel in the stockroom, unloading boxes with a clipboard. Need a hand? Nathaniel asked. Joel laughed. You offering to lift or supervise? Depends on how heavy they are. They both laughed. Before leaving, Nathaniel stood near the front doors as a mother walked in with 3 kids, all fidgeting and excited. Ruby greeted them. Cecily walked by with a pricing gun. Someone in the back dropped a hanger, and another chuckled. It wasn't chaos. It was movement. It was alive. That night, Nathaniel sat alone in his office at headquarters. He opened the company dashboard and clicked into Store 12's profile. Sales were up slightly, but more importantly, returns were down. Complaints had dropped by over 70%. He clicked into the internal feedback survey. Under, "What do you wish leadership understood?" someone had answered, "We just want to be treated like people. That's it." He didn't know who wrote it. Maybe Tasha, maybe Ronnie, maybe someone new. But he read it twice. Then he closed the laptop. The company had over 200 employees, 11 other stores, dozens of managers. But he'd never forget the lesson from Store 12. Disconnect doesn't announce itself. It creeps in. It hides behind titles and quarterly reports. It flourishes in silence. And fixing it wasn't about speeches or slogans. It was about showing up, listening, staying, and never letting anyone call your customers or your people trash.